Hello, everyone, and thanks for coming along to our monthly meetup, which is usually every last Tuesday of the month. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Ruby Golo. I look after the Global Chamber Accra chapter, and our business is simple. We help connect trusted business contacts around the world through our 600 plus metros that we operate from across the globe. So if you love to join this community, feel free to have a word with me after this section. I also run a consulting firm called Global Trade Consult, and we help companies expand into Ghana with their products and services. And we do same for local companies in Ghana who are looking to expand internationally as well. So some few housekeeping. We'll appreciate it if you can keep your microphones on mute until you are called to speak. Otherwise, feel free to use the chat box to share your contact details and network among yourself as well. It will really help the session today if you can probably edit your name and just add wherever you are joining us from. Let's say you can just add Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire or Mexico, UK, US, so that we appreciate where you are joining us from. And of course, because of the topic of today, if you let us know if you are playing any board role, whether you are a board chair, a director, or you are in the advisory role, we would like to know who is in the room today. Okay, so as we all know, AI is affecting almost every area of our lives, and corporate governance is certainly an area that we would like to discuss today. And we are so lucky to have Catherine Engman, Managing Director and founder of Mindful Governance, to present to us on the topic, Rethinking Board Capabilities in an AI Era. I would like to now call on stage Catherine to tell us a bit about herself, her passion, and then present to us. So, Catherine, please take it away.
Thank you. And I hope my slides are in slide view, Ruby.
Yes, I
Excellent.
can see it perfect. Yes, go ahead.
Excellent. So, as Ruby said, my name is Catherine Engman, and I run a company in Ghana called Mindful Governance. We operate across 4 countries. Our headquarters are in Ghana. Ruby asked what my passions are. And when she asked that, I thought, ooh, do I have any other passion other than work? Because I feel like I'm working all the time. So that's a note to self to develop the other aspect of myself where I pursue something that I'm truly passionate about. And what might that be, I wonder? Playing the piano, that's something that I dream about. And also, something that I dream about is getting a golf handicap. That's about me. And I'll be sharing my story as we as we talk today. And through that, you'll get to know a little bit more about what I do. Thank you for having me here today. So, Ruby got in touch with me around January because I was posting various things on LinkedIn around AI governance. And I'm sorry if there's some background noise. I have some workmen trying to do some work here. So Ruby asked me to talk about AI governance because I was posting all sorts of things on LinkedIn. And that was because I was at a point where I was really concerned about how we govern AI. I had an interaction with the chief financial officer of a board that I sit on, and he happily told me that he uses ChatGPT to prepare his board reports. I was aghast. And rather than telling him off, I used LinkedIn to get out all my frustrations about why we should not be using ChatGPT to write our board reports. Then a few weeks ago, A board chair told me that she had organized board training for her board, and they were now very experienced in Copilot. And she thought that that was AI governance, Copilot. So that's keeping me interested. And this is about rethinking our board capabilities in an AI era. I have a confession though. When I started to work on this presentation, I asked AI to prepare me some slides. So I put a prompt into Claude. Hello, Claude, which is what the version of AI that I use and love. And I said, I am going to be speaking on a webinar on AI capabilities in a board era. Please, can you help me with some content? Oh my gosh. What came back was so technical. It was technically correct, but it was so AI-ish. And then the thought dawned on me that the ease with which I had asked AI to produce content on rethinking board capabilities in the era of AI, I realized that you could do the same as well. Anyone can do that. So I'm actually going to speak from my heart. And transparency, this image here was generated by ChatGPT. I used a prompt, please, can you create an image of someone at a confessional? And ChatGPT produced this. So that's a bit about transparency, which I'll be talking to you about later today. So here's what I truly think, that our work as board members hasn't changed. But what has changed is the terrain that we're working in. Yes, we have geopolitics, we have AI, but one thing that hasn't changed with boards now is that we still need to bring judgment into the boardroom. And you know what, though? AI actually raises the cost of getting that judgment wrong, because a lot of people that I speak with are getting AI to review their board reports. And that is so not secure, because your training data can be used. And so AI has really raised the cost of getting that judgment wrong. So we've heard, for example, I don't know how many of you read about the case with Deloitte in Australia that was fined, I think, 440 million because they used AI to do some work for the government. That is the cost of getting judgment wrong. So our work as board members hasn't changed. We still need to bring judgment into the boardroom. But what's changed is that the cost of getting it wrong has been increased because of AI. I read some reports by Deloitte and PwC. So it was this Deloitte State of Generative AI and PwC's Annual Corporate Directors Survey. And it told us that 3/4, that's 75%, if my maths is correct, actually expect AI to transform the organizations within 3 years. Personally, I think if you were to do that survey again, so this survey is from the end of 2025, I think that might change because things are escalating. And the number of companies that are making massive redundancies because of AI, I think that number is actually underreported. But only and only 1/3 of boards have incorporated AI into their oversight. And I'll be honest with you, I sit on 5 boards, and my firm serves as a board advisor, company secretarial to many, many boards, and none of them actually have incorporated AI into their oversight. And I'll let you sit with that. So according to the PwC's Annual Corporate Directors Survey, only 1/3 of boards have incorporated AI into their oversight. But from my experience sitting on boards locally here in Ghana, the answer is very different. But then I can only speak from the perspective of the boards that I help and I sit on. And the lawyers are not trained in AI. And so many directors do not even think that the general counsel which is the person in charge of the legal departments, can actually help them with AI. I'd just like you to sit with that. So even though 3/4 of senior leaders expect AI to transform the organizations, only 1/3 of boards have incorporated it into their oversight. So what are the gaps that I see? For me, it's AI fluency. And what do we mean by fluency? Fluency is not the ability just to put in a prompt and get AI to do something. It's not about being able to use Google Notebook, LLM, or whatever tool you use. Fluency is really about when management make a presentation and you sit through it, are you able to ask the right questions? That's what AI fluency is. And AI literacy is really, is for me, AI literacy is the gap between management, is the gap between the people building AI and the gap between the board, because there are people in our organizations using AI. They're the people that are building the AI tools, and then there's us, directors, who are responsible for overseeing it. And each of those groups is operating with a completely different mental model. So it's AI influence, AI fluency, sorry, AI literacy, and AI oversight are the gaps that I see on boards at the moment. Oh, sorry, I had a technical hitch. So with the literacy, as I mentioned before, is that how do we know what our management teams are doing with AI? And that also leads into oversight. So 5 questions I think we should always ask is, as board members, is what data is this trained on? So I have a friend in the UK who is a very senior chief culture officer. She got made redundant about 5 years ago. And 2 years ago, she started looking for work. And her name is very, very unusual. And now in the UK, certainly most, and I'm sure it's the same in America as well, and other countries, most of the application forms for work you're actually shortlisted by an AI tool. It's not a human being. And the people who have trained the AI have taught it certain things. So this friend of mine was not getting a job, and she was actually an HR director. So she was a C-suite, couldn't get a job. So what did she do? She changed her name on her CV and was immediately shortlisted. So that question is, what data have the AI been trained on? And certainly, I'm going to use color, for example, is that most of the data, when you actually prompt AI and you ask it to produce certain images, it's more likely to produce a villain of a certain stereotype, I'm going to say, than it would of a different stereotype. So it has its stereotypes. So what data are they training the AI on? And the next question is, who's actually accountable when it gets a decision wrong? So for example, if your AI is filtering out certain candidates, and if, for example, my friend were to sue this company for prejudice, who's going to be responsible for that decision? Who's held Rick accountable? We don't know. And that's a question that we need to ask as board members. And for example, with Deloitte, who were fined a significant amount of money, who's really accountable for the decisions that AI made? I think it was last year, the chief constable of one of the police departments in the UK produced a report, and his team produced a report on a fake disturbance or a disturbance at a football match that didn't happen. AI totally hallucinated and he lost his job. So who's accountable when it gets a decision wrong? And can we evaluate AI's chain of thought? Because with AI produces its chain of thought. We've got to be able to understand and evaluate it. Otherwise, we will not know how it's made the decisions that it's made. And one of the most important things we should ask is, okay, so we have all these AI tools and we're running significant amount of our business using AI. But where is the human in the loop? And also, one of the things, and I'll come on to that later, is, when AI makes certain decisions, who is going to be outside the room by what it decides? And so every time you have a board presentation or there's something around AI, always make sure you ask, what data is it trained on? Who's going to be accountable when it gets its decision wrong? Are we able to evaluate its chain of thought? Where's the human in the loop? And who outside this room is affected by what it decides? Because an AI tool can come and tell you that make 3,000 people redundant. Those are people are going to be affected by the decisions of the AI. It's a very, very important question. And you may not get the answer, but certainly make sure you ask these questions. So what are the risks of these gaps? Oh my goodness, AI can hallucinate. And I don't know if any of you know how AI hallucinates, but I'll give you another example. I asked it to put together a paper for me on certain personalities, and I used a media star, and I asked it to produce any reports on XYZ, and AI confidently produced a report, and Jayesh has asked a question. I'll come to you, Jayesh. Has produced a report including quotes. And then I asked it, please verify this data. What are your sources? It couldn't give me the sources. And it actually told me that it had given me these reports based on what it thought that person would do and say. I thought, wow. So AI can totally hallucinate and make things up. And there's another thing that's happening at the moment where we have shadow AI, meaning that people are using tools which are not approved by the organization. So, for example, this CFO using ChatGPT to prepare his board report. The board had not approved ChatGPT. So people are using tools that are not approved by the organization, and that's really worrying. And of course, one thing is that whatever prompts and outputs you put in AI can actually be challenged legally. And so these are the risks of these gaps. Jayesh has a question. Jayesh, what's your question?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. As we talk about hallucinated outputs, because see, as an organization, we have been leveraging AI for market research reports. So what I predominantly feel is that if you ask a question to AI, it usually gives a hallucinated report. But how we have been trying to use this in a way is giving him a set of contours. For example, giving him a set of questions, because I think as board members or people, they don't have the entire knowledge base all the time. Let's say they are stuck up with a problem, so this is where the AI can bring them a preliminary market research report. And I think if AI could be leveraged in a right way, for example, it's like discovering an answer to a question, which means AI does a good job of asking the right questions. That's what we have been observing in our business. That earlier, when we used to use our market research, our set of questions were very limited to the clients. But with the advent of AI, we are able to be very exhaustive when it comes to asking questions in depth and our clients replying to us. So maybe I think AI hallucinates, but if AI can be used to frame right questions, I think the decision making could be improved. Just wanted to add this point as somebody who has been into AI consulting business. So I just wanted to add this point. Predominantly, I had no questions, but just wanted to add it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for that input. So this is
Right.
really about the use of AI and making sure that you're using it correctly so that it reduces the risk of hallucinated output. Beautiful. Thank you for adding that. And you see, because we've got an AI expert on the call, right? And so I love that. Thank you very much, Jayesh. Okay, so there is something that I keep coming back to, and this is about the heart framework. So we've got all the technical AI, and remember that we're rethinking our board capabilities in the era of AI. And what I believe is that we, the human beings, our judgment is going to become so much more important. Our judgment, our presence is going to become so much more important as AI does a lot of work for us. And you're going to say, well, what has the heart got to do with AI? Oh, this is my own framework that I came up with. And Jayesh mentioned it earlier when he said that, sometimes you just don't know all the answers. And the H represents humility. Humility that we do not know, knowing that we do not know. And as I go further along in my board career, I realize the less and less I know. And I know that sounds so contradictory because I should actually feel like I know more. But as I get to know more, I know that I actually know less. And so humility is knowing that we do not know. We don't have all the answers, but we should be able to say so in the room before someone else notices it. So that's about the humility as board members. The E is empathy. And one of the things that I believe that we could do better, and I'm not saying everyone, just from my experiences, is asking who the stakeholders are that are going to be affected by our system. I heard the other day about, and I'm sure it's very normal in other countries, but I heard about here where there's a microfinance company that that does microcredit, and when you download the app onto your phone, it has access to all your data, including your GPS. So from that, they can actually assess what time you woke up in the morning, where you went to at 2 hours later, how long you were in certain locations. They can access which apps you look at, which YouTube videos, and based on that, they make credit decisions. I personally do not know actually, I do feel that that's a little bit unethical for me. That's very intrusive. I do think that we need to ask ourselves, who is going to be affected by the system? If you've got massive layoffs, knowing who is going to be affected, and that's the empathy, is to ask those hard questions. And A is accountability. Who will be held to account what AI is doing on our watch? Because AI can do certain things on its own, and have we authorized it? Well, regulators are starting to hold companies to account for what AI does. So A is the accountability piece, and it's being very clear who is going to be held accountable for the decisions that AI makes. You may ask the difference between responsibility and accountability. Accountability is after the fact and responsibility is before. Are we going to be responsible for the decisions that AI makes? So for example, it's filtering out certain demographics of individuals for jobs. That's our responsibility, really knowing we are going to be responsible for so much. So responsibility is making sure that we are responsible for, we know, responsible use of AI, responsible for the decisions that AI is going to make. And this then comes back to the humility because we may not even know, right? Transparency for me is about telling people honestly how we're using AI. So as I disclosed at the beginning, I used ChatGPT to create an image of that first image that we saw. I think there were two images here that ChatGPT used. And transparency is telling people honestly how we're using AI as organizations. I've seen some companies in their annual report talk about their responsible use of AI, how they're using it, but not everyone is doing that. And even as employees working in organizations, being honest about how we're using AI. So at your next meeting, my invitation to you is make sure that you put AI as an agenda item on its own. Most people may bury it under technology updates, but that's not correct because AI is across the whole organization now. It's not just a technology problem. It's a financial problem. It's a strategic problem. It's a people problem. It's not just a technology update. And so ensure that you put AI as an agenda item at your board meeting. I haven't finished my sentence here. Can management actually produce a current inventory of all the AI tools that they're using? One thing that we help boards do is to do diagnostics to find out within the organization who is using AI and how they're using AI. And in some board meetings now, it's great to see, they'll actually ask ChatGPT a question that they're struggling with, but how are we going to decide when AI and management give different answers? Because we can all prompt AI and it can give us certain answers. And sometimes you, the human, may disagree with what another party says. Because have you noticed how two of you can ask AI exactly the same question and it can give you completely different answers because it knows you and it doesn't give context and it doesn't often is not the right perspective because, well, AI's perspective will differ according to who's prompting it. So this is what I ask is that, when AI and management have different answers, who decides? AI, management? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So I'd like to leave you with this, that the quality of our judgment in this era, if you don't take anything away, is that the quality of our presence and the quality of our judgment is going to matter more now in this AI era, not less, because AI can do so much of the heavy lifting. You've got the AI oversight, AI governance, you embedding AI into your company operations. But what's going to matter most as a board director is the quality of my presence and my judgment. And I would like to leave you with this thought that as we progress and we go about our board careers, is to remember that always lead with the heart, the humility to know that we do not have all the answers, asking the right questions, empathy for the stakeholders that are going to be affected by these decisions, or asking who's going to be affected by our decisions. A is accountability piece. R is responsibility around AI. The UKAI Act, EU Act, responsible use of AI and transparency, disclosure around how we're using AI. And yes, that's it. Transparency. That's the last one. Thank you all. And I'll stop now for any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was wonderful. The floor is open. If I may, I will ask the first question. And what skills do you see missing from most boards today?
What skills do I see missing today from most boards? Gosh, do you know, I think what I see more, Ruby, is that I see boards that do not have the right composition around the board. So not so much as the particular skills missing, but people have not put enough thought into having the rightly composed board. Because what I say is that look ahead, look to 5 years' time, and ensure that you have the people on the board that are going to be able to help you get to where you are in 5 years' time. So I came across a board the other day where nobody had any legal knowledge. There wasn't any, and no one had any financial knowledge. Yet this company is trying to become a financial technology company in the future, and yet they didn't have those capabilities. So that's what I see missing. I see that, I get a bit passionate about that. I see that people do not spend enough time looking at the skills gaps on their boards and then plugging those gaps appropriately.
I get it. I get it. So you should be looking at getting a legal brain on the board, somebody with finance background, somebody probably an AI expert to bring some knowledge within the board. Okay.
You do say, actually, thank you actually for pointing that out, because you've just jogged my memory. Whenever I do board evaluations, what I'm noticing, for the last 12 years, I've been advocating for a CIO type or a CTO type as a board member, and that's something that has been missing actually. So
okay,
good point. Thank you for jogging my memory.
That's okay. Okay, the floor is open, audience. Anyone up to asking any question? You can put it in the chat box or just simply come on board. Okay. Kashifa, hi, you have your hands up. Great to have you in the call.
Thank you, Ruby, and good to see you again. Hope you've been well. And thanks, Catherine, for a very, I think, timely and important discussion today. I'm an auditor by profession, so I think it's very important that we look at the accountability and the need for AI along with what, the compliance and governance of organizations really need. So not so much a question, more of a thought that I wanted to share with everyone here is that I feel, from my experience, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and I feel more and more that boards are kind of being pressured that they have to do something with AI, so they don't feel like they're left behind, and you're not being modern enough, and a lot of times I see organizations or the leadership adopting tools that are not even needed. They're not even adding value, but they're very AI, they're very modern, and they're very digital, and that is where I feel like if boards could really take the challenge of distinguishing real transformation from just expensive experimentation without a clear ROI, or whether AI is actually adding an advantage to their particular organization, because not every organization necessarily needs the same level of AI involvement. And I think if that is something that boards should concentrate on, really deciding how much they should be spending, and whether, not to just keep up with the hype, but actually if the organization needs it, and draw a line necessary if they need to. To avoid that. So that's just my thought I wanted to share. Thank you.
That's a really great point, because I read recently, and the name of the company escapes me, how they'd spent tens of millions on an AI project that they'd shelved because they hadn't done the ROI and it hadn't worked. So that's a really important point. And I'll make sure I update my presentation later to include "do not feel pressured." Thank you.
Thanks. Glad to be of help.
Oh, thank you.
Was a nice one. Thank you. I think we have a question from Afeti in the chat box. It says, apart from maintaining professional balance in the boardroom, what do you think about having the right mix of natural energies to balance behaviors?
That's a great question. And there's a tool that my company works with called Contribution Compass. And I'm sure you've all probably heard of things like DISC as well. There are all sorts of personality assessments, but they're all based around energy, I-chain, really. And we all have different types of energy. So some people lead with red energy. So they're the innovators, like the Steve Jobs and the Donald Trumps and the go, go, go. You've got the yellows, who are the inspiring energy. I have a lot of yellow energy, I must admit. I love people. I want to hang around with people. And then you've got the greens who are grounded, and then you've got the blues who are evaluators. And one of the things that whenever we're composing a board, as well as looking at the technical skills, we also look at the balance of the natural energy, because if you have too many reds on the board, the company will be constantly innovating, but no one will be thinking about the evaluations or thinking about risks. And then if you have too many yellows like me, I'll be, all about the people and go, people, but we will not be moving along. So thank you, Afeti. It's really important. So as well as looking at technical, look at the natural energies as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Stephen, for your compliment. Oh, you made my day.
Last one. Do we have any more questions? Feel free. This is your time. You have Catherine here, so let's ask our questions.
Questions or comments? Because as I said, we
your
don't
experience.
your
Yes.
experience, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I've already taken down one note. Don't feel pressured. So next time you see my presentation, it will look totally different.
Yeah, we all learn every day, don't we?
Yes.
Esther Forsen, I saw that you say you sit on a board. I think that was in the chat somewhere. Would you want to share your experience?
I think Esther
Forsen, yeah. She did say something.
Yeah, she's board chair at Consica Ghana Limited.
Yeah, so
I'm not going to ask Esther about her company, but when you speak with other board chairs, what perspectives do you get on how they are on their AI governance readiness?
from my experience, I think a lot do not have the policy in place at the moment and are considering getting it done. And I think it's about time that we all look at it, because whether we like it or not, AI is going to drive most of the things that we do. So I think it's key for every board, whether you are a chair, whether you are a director, whether you are in the advisory role. I think we all need to take this matters very serious, and that is why I thought today's conversation is an exciting one to discuss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because recently there was an experience where I use Fireflies for my team meetings, right?
Okay.
And we had an experience on another board where one of the company secretaries had used a different AI model. Someone else had used a different AI note taker, And
Yes.
when the minutes arrived, my AI had recorded it slightly differently. Like the actions were so completely different to the company secretary's AI and to the other director's AI. And that's when I realized that, my goodness, we even need to get approval for which AI tools is allowed in the room because of all these conflicts.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'd like to make
even
a plug.
within webinars, I see a lot of people taking notes and all that. So sometimes I wonder the tools they are using, what they are getting out, after the event and all that. So it's a valid point you are making, Catherine. Yes, we need to be watchful.
Yes. And I'd like to make a plug, if I may.
Sure.
We have someone who's an expert in AI governance, and he's going to be coming to Ghana, and we're having an AI wake-up call for boards session, a full-day session on the 14th of July. So I just wanted to make a plug for that, if I may.
Yeah, sure. So do you have the details to share with us in the chat?
I shall. Yes, I shall. Okay.
All right.
I will.
Brilliant.
I'll get the sign link. Yes.
Yeah. We want to make this section interactive as much as we can. The floor is still open. If you want to, okay, Mohammed, your hand is up. Please take the mic.
Hi everyone. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Hi,
Thank you.
Mohammed.
Hi, thanks for a great session. And my question is when uh, we are talking about boards and decisions and AI, what if a board uh, will not accept AI and they just went with the brain power and they made a fatal mistake? Who is responsible then? Even the simplest tool of AI will suggest the rational decision. This was my thought that I came up. We are thinking the other way when we are living in AI age. And thank you very much.
Yes, Mohammed, that's a valid question that maybe AI might tell you to do something and then you decide not as a board. And ultimately, the board is responsible for the decisions of the company. And it's the board that will be sent to court, court will be held accountable by its shareholders. And so I think that in such cases, even I wonder what it would look like in court with a prompt that, or being told that, well, AI actually advised you to do X, Y, Z, and you did Y. So you have a really good point. We are in such a, I was going to say, this is such a gray area. Ultimately, though, the directors are always going to be held responsible for the actions of the company until the legislation changes. Until the legislation changes. I'm wondering whether well, we have seen situations where ChatGPT being sued, right, for giving advice to someone who then lost their life. So things are moving, things are changing. So I'm going to sit with that question further, Mohammed. My view is that until the law changes, human beings are going to be held responsible.
You mentioned until legislation changes.
In
So,
Ghana. So
yeah,
yes.
in Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay, so in
Yes.
Ghana, so where are we at? I mean, do you know, has it started? What stage are we at? Because I actually don't know.
So there's a working committee putting together an AI framework, etc., for Ghana. And there is talk as well about our Companies Act. Some update might be happening. But then, given the fact that it took about 15 years to update our last Companies Act, which was in 1963, and
Yeah,
it didn't come 2019, I don't know whether this will happen, but I do know that things are moving very, very fast. And other jurisdictions have
yeah.
amended legislation. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we have anyone in the room that is, from any part of the world that they already have a government policy on AI that they will want to share with us?
I certainly know that the EU, as people are answering, the EU recently revised their AI policy, and the EU policy is based around the acronym FACS. So
Yeah.
again, yes, so there's the EU, and then the UK has also introduced some sort of policy, but it's actually on the continuum. So from law to principles, that's what I've discovered so far. So it'd be great to hear from people in a jurisdiction that have legislation around AI.
Yeah. Kashfia, I don't know if you want to come back on stage and maybe share your experience from the US.
Hi, Ruby. Actually, I haven't been working much with AI specifically yet. So I have a lot of experience in auditing corporate auditing for both Bangladesh and Singapore and the US. But
Okay.
it's still because I specialize in internal audit, especially.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
more process based and control optimization. So I don't want to speak on something that,
Of
but I
course, I
do. But
understand.
what
Yeah.
I've seen so far, though, that in among the boards which I shared earlier, is I've seen that sometimes there is a lot of hype to. Even when they don't need to, but just so that they feel like they're being left behind. That's one thing. And one thing I would add, which I'm also seeing, is that a lot of times without even understanding the compliance and the due diligence part of launching a lot of the AI tools, or how AI is sharing a lot of information, and then employees sometimes share payroll data, etc., other confidential information that otherwise, before this era, they would take the measures to only share it within a certain network with the right passwords and protection. But now they're feeding this a lot of confidential information into, say, ChatGPT or Gemini to get
Yeah.
answers or to make a presentation, etc. And that is kind of backfiring in the form of fines and a lot of penalties. And that's something I've been seeing that, and also when I discuss with my colleagues in the risk management and compliance industry, that a lot of times they're rushing to implement these pilot programs or these AI tools or etc. so that their organization is like sort of, they feel like they're on par, but without the right due diligence, and then they're being hit with so much of fines and penalties that it wasn't even worth, whatever the return that was given by launching
Yeah.
it. That's something I could add that I've seen in my experience, and I that's why I always stress on, understanding something and getting the compliance right before launching it and using it, because it might bite back and just cost you more than it was worth.
So and what that sounds to me is, and at last year's strategy sessions, there wasn't a single. Okay, so it makes it sound like I was sat on so many, but I attended 5 different strategy sessions, and I don't ever remember us looking at AI strategies.
Right.
And everything seems to be done piecemeal. So
yes,
I think your point is, I think this is something that's really important for us, is to actually consider our AI strategy as we're having our discussions, preparing for our strategy retreats this year. Absolutely. To make it holistic across the organization.
Definitely. Yes. And also, like, before before you make a deal or you sign a contract, there's so much of the legal implications that we look into. Absolutely. Or how we do a risk assessment, etc. But with AI tools, I see that organizations seem to kind of skip it, and I don't know, like, why they feel like, I think they feel like AI is going to take care of that as well. But no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. The AI risk assessments, yes. That we need, I think the boards as well need some education as well around that. AI risks assessments, the oversight. That's a big gap at the moment, is the AI oversight. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I think we just have a few minutes to go. I see our Deputy Director, Sharon Matike, in the audience. Sharon, would you want to say a few words in closing us and to comment on the topic and what has been discussed?
Thank you so much, Ruby. Thank you so much, Catherine, for this absolutely insightful session. I think I did mention in the comments that technically AI is supposed to help us to think, but not to outsource our thinking. Okay, so with what is going on now, very interesting. I'm speaking at Generative Technology Summit next month, and there is the very interesting part of the fourth technological revolution, and then there are the downsides that really get us all worried. So yes, exactly. So again, with a board, I think Jayesh asked a very interesting question around whether to do whether we should put the humans on the board and all that. I think for now, from this discussion, what I am taking home is, look, we cannot do away with the AI. We will not be able to do away with it. In fact, if you're investing in the stock markets, the shares doing well are AI shares, right?
For now.
So again, not much is going to change in terms of we have gotten there, we are there now. The best thing is how do we use it? How do we now? Maybe we'll have new innovative AI technologies that what we have now is just more of like a robot that a chat box robot that has been fed with information and then generically produces what it is for us. But to help us on our boards, in our meetings, in our companies, it's best to understand that this AI tool is necessary to help us. Sorry, I have a whole baby board members here.
I love it.
Yeah. So then I think my take home is okay, we will need the AI. I mean, your employees, your directors, your whoever is using AI to check a few things. But at the end of the day, we have to work with the AI. We don't outsource the thinking. We let AI look at the scope of all the angles of our decision taking. I mean, maybe that's the best way around it. Let's let AI look at all the angles of our decision taking. But at the end of the day, we the humans, the directors of the board, the chair people on the board, these humans should know that they are responsible for whatever decisions that are being taken with the help of these generative technologies. So thank you so much. And it's a discussion that cannot end, and it's very exciting, but also very worrying. So
what do you find worrying, if you don't mind me asking?
I would think we would have a lot of generic answers, generic decision-taking models, you know. So for example, yes. So like you're saying, you realize that you had a different response based on the kind of tool you were using, and the others also had a different response. So how do we merge that? Because it depends on the prompt, you see. So it depends on the prompt you are feeding the tool. Yeah, that is quite worrying to me.
It is. And even when you even think about even employee data and employee grading and skills, you're absolutely right. So what we need is we need the judgment, as you
We
say.
need the judgments. I do a lot of research as well because our business does a lot of market research. So I could relate very well with what Jayesh said about research. That yes, I mean, when you live in a market like an African market, now where we don't have many maybe AI fed into market research and all that, you don't get the right information using an AI tool. Yes. You see, so these are the gaps. So somebody will be sitting somewhere and then Google oil recovery services in Cameroon, for example. What AI is going to tell the person is very different from what is on the ground, because obviously we have not developed AI tool for oil recovery services in Cameroon to feed into the chat box. So yeah, it is what it is.
Absolutely, because that goes back to the training data. What training data has the AI been fed with? Yes. Thank you.
Hey,
You as well. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. On that note, we would like to thank Catherine for making time out of her busy schedule to be with us today, to share her experience, her thoughts and knowledge on the topic. We really appreciate your time. We are so grateful to you. And I don't know how many football lovers we have in the room, but as we are moving to the World Cup season next month, I think it's starting from the 11th. So our next meetup will focus on the World Cup. I mean, Ghana is in there. So that will be on 30th of June, same time, 2 p.m. And the dress code will be for you to come along in your football jerseys. So it's going to be a fun one. So look out for more details. Follow us on our social media channels for the details. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you all. And I wish you all the best of the rest of the week.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll stay in the room for a few minutes if anyone wants to talk to me, whether you have any requests, you're looking for contacts around the world, or you simply just want to know how you can join our community. I'll be around to talk to you directly. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question.
Sure.
How do we join your community?
Okay, so we do have various level of membership. One thing that is very unique with Global Chamber is we even have our doors open to students. So we have student membership because we want to catch them young, so that they can prepare for the work, the job market, and probably if they want to set up on their own, we want to hold their hands through the process. So we do have for students, young professionals, we do have membership for entrepreneurial level, diplomat, different levels. So anyone interested, please just send me an email. What I'll do is I'll put my details on the chat, which is, just bear with me, and then I'll be able to share the link directly with anyone who is interested.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah. Thank you for that question. And we look forward to having you join us, Catherine.
I love it. The
Yes.
prophecies.
Did you
Yes.
put the details of your upcoming event in the chat?
Oh gosh, you know, I couldn't multitask and pick it up. Just
Okay.
bear with me. Multitasking is not my strength anymore.
Or if you can put your link in,
Okay, we'll do that.
yeah, and the
do
people
that.
can connect and maybe reach out to you and your team for more info.
We'll do that, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, let me put that.